because the one activity during this very clearly defined 2-year period that I really dove into and indulged in a huge way was watching movies. It was when DVDs were starting to become very accessible, and you know, your VCRs and your betas, and of course movie theaters. But you could, as you can now, you can just go through movies, and I did. I watched as many as humanly possible. Every genre, every single genre: mysteries, comedies, westerns, dramas, action adventures, slashers, you name it. I was just devouring these movies. And slowly, as I was watching these movies, I arrived at a conclusion that would dictate the way I'd live the rest of my life. I realized that, and it's a pretty simple realization now, as I say to you guys, but when I'd be watching a movie, of course, when one guy is talking, the convention is that the other guy is not. The other guy is listening. Well, I wanted to be the other guy. I didn't want to be the guy who was talking because I didn't have anything to say. I hadn't talked for 2 years, so I was perfectly comfortable being the other guy. I wanted to be the guy who was listening. And this was a strange way to kind of, in a backdoor way, enter into acting, because most of us who want to act feel we have something to say. And I wanted to resonate as the character who spoke volumes, that his presence was defined, and his grace and his arc was defined by his capacity to listen. I thought that would be a really interesting way to communicate non-verbally. As soon as I realized this, that I committed in my young teenage mind to spending the rest of my life as a listening apparatus, spending the rest of my life doing something that I felt pretty comfortable for, you know, since I was 10, listening. I felt phenomenally liberated. I'm sure you guys have all, at some point or another, been liberated by some sense of being able to do something. And for me, being able to find a way to channel this capacity to actively listen made me feel liberated. And so I started to talk again for the first time in years. I'll digress for a second, because at the end of this period, the end of these 2 years, my father, who is still alive, but my father, who was this enormous presence and big man, takes up a lot of energy and space, and he had a very large impact on all my brothers and sisters and I. At the end of this 2-year period, he had arrived at the end of his chain. He was no longer amused by this little jackass who wasn't talking. His patience had eroded, and I remember what he said at the end of the summer. It was the beginning of the summer before my senior year in high school, and I'd come home from some sports camp, and I didn't have anything to say, nothing. And so my father, I guess, had decided that if I came back from that summer, I didn't have anything to say. He was going to end this. And so he said, he called me Jumbo, and his voice was way back here. And he said, Jumbo, if you can't speak, you can't eat. I want you to use your head for something other than a hat rack. Give us a call when you have something to say. Get out. And I said, but Dad, I've decided to start talking. Too late, baby. Hit the highway. What I had realized during that time was that everybody needs a listener, especially in the construct of a well-told tale. The leading man needs to park all that who, what, where, when, how somewhere. We have to have someone who can reciprocate or remind us what the leading man just said, so that he's going to be off getting the bad guy or getting the girl. And so everyone needs a listener, and so I made it my mission in the context of being in plays and movies and eventually TV, to find that niche. And that niche is the best friend, the co-worker, the next door neighbor, the father, the uncle, the brother, the assistant bad guy, the boss, the ex-boyfriend, the doctor, and the business partner. And at one point, as all these roles started to kind of cascade over each other, and this plan that I had come up with was realizing fruition. As one does from time to time, everything had to be an extreme. You know, everything has to go fucking extreme. So I decided I'm going to be a listening zealot. And so I just started asking people to cut my lines, which is actor suicide. It's the last thing on the planet any actor ever does. You know, we want to say more, and I didn't. I wanted to listen more. And so I was most other actors' best friend because I was having a garage sale with mine. You could have mine. I didn't